My dad was kind of a horseaholic. He loved racehorse. And every morning he would pick up his cup of coffee and fill it way too full and walk around. It would slosh all over the ground. So he had his cup of coffee that day and he's smiling. And he's like, all right, let's get going. The sale starts at whatever time it was, 9 o'clock, we gotta be there. And so that day just happened to be the day of the largest thoroughbred sale in the world. The one where all the hopefuls for the Triple Crown come in. And so it just happened that that sale was just down the street from where we lived. And so we get in there and we sit down, and if you looked around the crowd, you saw people like the Sheikh Maktoum of Dubai and conglomerates from around the country like Ireland and people from China who fly in on their own pink jet and won't eat any of the food because it's not quite good enough for them. And the royalty of thoroughbred racing like the Taylors, who at the time sold about $8 billion worth of horses a year. They're all in this room, and then there's us. Looking around and you feel, it's kind of like you want to pinch yourself like, we're here. And so we're looking, horses coming in, the babies are jigging and jagging because they're scared, nervous, and they had amazing horse handlers, but they have their hands full. And then comes this horse. And my dad leans over and he said, I got a feeling about this one. And what I noticed right away was, instead of all the scariness of the yearlings, she came in with her head up, very alert, but not skitchy, not scared. And they led her around, and she just was looking at everything. And when she gets to the front of the stage, she looks right down at my dad and held the glare. And the bidding started, and he bought that filly that day. And she was sired by Unbridled Song, who had won the Breeders' Cup, and her grandfather was Unbridled, who had won the Breeders' Cup. But Unbridled Song, her father, was not yet a proven horse. She was in the first full crop of that lineage, so it was an unknown. But my dad had this amazing, he used to call it luck, to pick up good horses. He'd done that. He'd had the Triple Crown winner of quarter horses. We had won all kinds of things at horse showing, and now we're here. So he had this uncanny ability to choose horses that he could afford that would also win. So it was kind of fun. So he bought a few other horses that day, and by the end of that day, when he went to go purchase her, he named her. And he named her Unbridled Elaine. He got a van to take her back to the farm, and absolutely everything that he did from that day on with that horse was to get her to the biggest race he'd ever been to in his life. He used to call it the big one, but in the race business, it's the Breeders' Cup. That one you have to qualify for all of the Triple Crown races, or you have to have enough points that you've won other races to even be qualified to get there, and then you still sometimes have to go before a board. So anyway, he buys this horse, takes her home, and starts having a blast with her. And he and my mom used to go to the grocery store and buy those giant bags of carrots, and then he'd take them back to the fence, and they would all come running, of course. And these now are big, unbroke, thoroughbred yearlings because they're all together, and they come flying to the fence, and Elaine would always get there first, and he would sit there and feed her every single one of those carrots, and my mom would be, Roger, why don't you share with those other ones? And he'd go, I'm just teaching her to come in front. But he did that, every single thing with her like that the entire time. He began to build the knowledge that the only place she was supposed to and would ever finish was in first. I happened to be there one of the first times she'd been ridden, and it looked again sort of like the sale. The rest of the 2-year-olds are out there kind of bucking and jumping, tossing, doing whatever, hard to steer, and she was just forward, just easy, just supple and soft in the hand of her rider. So after you have the horses trained, and she had to actually weight, because she was 17 one hands, and for a racehorse, it's gigantic. And you horse people know that the taller the babies are, the longer it takes for the knees to heal, right? I mean, not to heal, to grow together, because they're too far apart when they're young. They need to grow, otherwise they'll break down. So he had to roll the dice, as he would say, from the very beginning. He decided to hold her off a little while so that she would be safe, because no legs, no horse, no race. And so he rolled, that was the first time. So when he felt it was time, he sent her and all his other 2-year-olds to a training track. So they went there, and another day I just happened to get to be there. We were sitting in my dad's Navigator with my mom, and I was in the back seat. And it was funny, we're in Lexington with all the blue bloods and all this. Well, the training track guy was a cowboy, and he's on this big quarter horse, and he's sitting beside my dad, like my dad's in the car, and he's sitting there, and we're watching his 2-year-olds begin to be trained. And so you see what you would be used to seeing again. Lots of this and that going on, a lot of fighting, a lot of learning, a lot of running down the track like that. And one of the guys actually got bucked off, and my dad was laughing. He's like, "Hey, what's the matter with you? Don't you know how to ride?" And he's just having a blast getting to watch all of that. And then the trainer looks to my dad and he said, "Roger, I want you to watch this one." And it was amazing. It was like a movie. It was, if you've been in Kentucky in the morning, there's the mist that lays on the hills, and it was early morning, so the sun was behind the horses, and out of this gray fog with this beautiful light comes this horse, and she's just relaxed. She looks like an old pro. She's just going straight. She's not fighting her rider, and every stride she took, she was taking more ground. All the rest of his 2-year-olds were already out there. By the time she came around the last turn, she was lengths ahead of all the rest of them, and she looked like she wasn't even working. And the guy leans down to my dad and says, "Roger, I think you have a horse." And in Kentucky, that's a contender for the Triple Crown. And that was a day I don't think anyone in our family will ever forget, because it was the beginning of the awesome journey that Jesus led us on. Her first racetrack was Churchill. That was her home for a while. So when they get to Churchill, they begin to segregate them into different classes of horses. So in the morning, all the trainers and a lot of reporters and stuff are out there timing the horses, watching, listening, talking. And so by the time she'd been there a short time, she was grouped with all the best 2-year-olds at the track. And so she would then move to another barn with that quality of horses, and they begin to train them. And it's pretty amazing. They literally give them a certain amount of time to be groomed, a certain amount of time to be ponied, a certain way they're going to enter the gate, so that every time it happens, it's exactly the same. Because horses thrive in habitual handling, because they don't have to think about it. They just can relax. So that was our first time to go to the top of Churchill, to the private club, and it was kind of the same scenario. There's who's who in the royalty of horse racing and us, some people from the Midwest with a dream. I knew it was a miracle. My dad and mom were ear to ear happy. It was amazing. But we also knew, especially my dad knew, the likelihood of buying one horse, being in that crowd and winning. And so I'm not sure we had much anticipation. We certainly had hope. But you look at all these people and all these horses, and they're like the most amazing horses in the world at the time. What are the chances? Close to zero. So they mount up, they get in the race, the gates are open, they come out, and in her maiden race, she was wire to wire in the front. Boom, and we were just like, she won that race that day. She broke her maiden, and because of her time and because of the particular race, she got put directly into the Grade 1 stakes horses, which are the best horses in the country at the time. So we go home. This is a miracle already. It honestly probably almost could have stopped there, because we were so excited and dumbfounded and in awe. And we're sitting, now this one day, he's not sitting in his recliner in the room watching his horses. He was in the other room, other family room with us, and we're kind of chatting and smiling and talking about what just happened, and the phone rings. My dad picks it up, and he gets this, I always call it the cat swallowed the canary smile. And he's like listening, and he's shaking his head, and he's like, well, Sheik, it's like this. And I'm like, he said, you know, I know that you could fill my casket with your money, and still it wouldn't be enough money to buy the amount of fun I'm going to have with this horse this year. And he turned him down. And what we found out later is that he had offered $7 million for the horse that day. That was the day I really began to realize what success is. It isn't money. It's living your dream. It's leaving a legacy. She continued to win. She continued to do amazingly. Took us into places we'd never been. The Churchill Club became normal for a minute in time. And we were there and began to know people. And the first time we went to a trial, I was asked by God to make a place in case there's a miracle and she wins. And so my only job through this entire story is to make a place. You know, it's kind of like writing out a check before you have the money. You're sitting here and you know that your account will get full so you can pay the bill. It was sort of like that. And so her first trial, she wins. He gets to go down. He gets to receive the trophy, and it's an amazing thing. She only lost one race as far as I know, and that was in a rainstorm. It was raining, and horses at the when they're running on the track, the biggest, tallest ones have the biggest reach, so it's more slippery for them. They have a lot more pull they have to make. And so that day she was beat by a little horse called Miss Linda, who was from Argentina, and she has this little thing, and she was a great mud runner. So that was a race one day she lost. But so we're back now, again, at the Pocahontas Stakes. And what you have to realize is he's not doing it like everybody else. Everyone else is trying to get in all of the biggest races and all of them, but he couldn't because, remember, he didn't want to break her down before her time. So we move on to the Pocahontas Stakes, which is a bigger one, and it's at Churchill. And we're excited now because now we've got some wins under our belt, and now they're not laughing at us anymore. But we're sitting there, and out of the crowd, there's probably 30,000, 40,000 people at the track, comes this man, and we're up in the club, and there's these double French doors, and he walks in and comes directly to our chairs, and he introduces himself as, he said, my name's Salty Roberts. I am head of Backside Ministries International. Do you mind if I sit down? And I'm like, here's someone's gonna come and tell him about Jesus. And I was like pinching myself. And so this gentleman sits down, but this guy wasn't like any preacher I'd ever heard of. He sits down and starts telling my dad stories about, he'd just come back from Dubai, and they were just setting up a race for the prince and the so-on and the this, and telling him all about the sheik and his boys. He said, yeah, I spent the night at one of their houses, and my dad's like, and then he tells him, he said, you know, I rode with Prince Charles once at playing polo, and he said, you know, people laugh at him because he falls off and they think he's a terrible rider. He said, but you know, want to know the truth? He was the most daring, awesome polo player, and he would risk himself for the team. And so when you saw him fall off, it's because he was going for it. He never held back. And then he said, yeah, he said, and we're doing a fundraiser with the Taylors, which Unbridled horses were at the tailor-made farm. They were raised there, and so they had some of the biggest, most famous, most highest money earning horses in the world. And so and my dad knew him. Old Mr. Taylor and my dad used to sit together and tell dirty jokes and laugh. And so he tells him about hanging out with the Taylors. And my dad by now is looking at him like, what kind of preacher is this? He never mentioned Jesus, just the stuff he did. And so my dad's looking at him. Eventually he goes, well, Raj, I got to get going. And he had this little book, and he writes something in it, and he sets it down on the table. And he takes a few steps away, and he said, Roger, what do you think the chances are of a guy like you winning this race today. And when my dad knew the odds were like 0 or he didn't have an answer, he would chew on his cheek and shake his head. And Salty walked a few steps away, and he looks at my dad, and he points at him. And it was like there was silence in the middle of all these people. He said, when you win the Breeders' Cup, you're going to know that God loves you. The exact prayer of a little girl's heart. And my dad just looked like a deer in headlights. And Salty walks away. And my dad looks at me and he goes, please excuse my French, but I want you to know my dad. What in the hell do you think he meant by that? And I'm like, and I said, I'm not absolutely sure, Dad. And I'm thinking, oh my Lord. I pick up that book, and it was called The Stable Guide. You guys have ever seen a stable guide before? And inside it said, when you win the Breeders' Cup, you will know that God loves you. So, more races come. It's getting time for the Kentucky Derby. She was the odds-on favorite in the country. There was a 1-to-1 odds for her to win the race. And the first of the big drama begins. The trainer she was with sent her out east to run against the big stallions 2 weeks before. And not only was that just a pure motivation, it was not a pure motivation, but it turned out that that trainer had a Kentucky Oaks, that's the female part of the Kentucky Derby. He had one he hoped would win in the barn, so he sent her away because he knew his couldn't beat her. So he sent her out there, and for the first time in her life in a big race, she was beat by the horse that actually ended up winning the Kentucky Derby. The horse's name was Tisnow. And he got beat out there, and as my dad was furious about that because he never wanted that to be her mindset, that she wouldn't win. But then he found out as he kind of raged that this trainer, Dallas Stewart, had that horse in the Kentucky Oaks, and that's why he sent her away. So my dad took not only her, but he had another big handful of horses in his barn, and he took all the horses away from that trainer and put it in another barn with another trainer. There were several more races, and then she still wasn't quite qualified because she hadn't been in those. So there's one way to get into the Breeders' Cup if you haven't qualified for those, if you haven't run those races. She qualified for them all, but she didn't run them. And so there's only one way to get in the Breeders' Cup at that time. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie Dreamer, how they have to go before a Breeders' Cup board. So any horse in the country can go before that board. But you have to, first of all, even to go before the board, you have to pay a lot of money, a lot. And then they look at all the horses and they only pick one in the whole country to get in. And the second phone call I'll never forget in my entire life. Same kitchen, same place. Elaine, we're in. We're going to the Breeders' Cup. And it was like time stopped. It was a miracle in and of itself. 1 week before the Breeders' Cup, and they tell me, your dad just took that horse out of the barn and gave it to another trainer. 1 week before the Breeders' Cup. And like I said, they're so used to their routine. She had a goat that she lived with as a pal. She had the same routine every day. She was led here, groomed here, saddled, ponied, and they had it down to the minutes so that she could just rest into that routine and not have to think about anything when she'd get to a race. She gets moved, all of that changes. She's suddenly somewhere. In the morning, I call my dad and I'm like, what happened, Dad? I just heard on TV last night that you moved a horse. I'm trying to be respectful and kind, but I'm thinking, what the hell did you do? And he said, well, you can't go to the big one with someone you don't trust. And I'm thinking, I think I could have won. I think I could have done this one. Because he said, no. He said, I asked him to take her to Belmont at least 2 weeks ahead of time so she could get used to it. That track was longer than any track she'd ever run at. The temperature was different. Everything was different. And so he wanted her there so she could get in on her routine. And he found out that the trainer didn't do that. And my dad's like, blankety blank, why didn't you do that? And he said, I told you to. And he said, well, I'm the trainer and you're not. And my dad said, yeah, exactly. And he moved her. And here was a really wild part, is that, so there's the guy who betrayed him, sends him out east, but that guy was the only guy in the entire world who knew that horse beside the trainer she was with. He swallowed his pride because he didn't care anymore. He had no pride. He had a vision and a focus to get to that race. So he calls Dallas, and can you imagine what Dallas's reaction was? First, he's probably thinking, what kind of internal fortitude does he have to call me after all that? He almost ruined our lives. And Dallas's answer was, I'll pray about it. And so, as it turns out, Dallas did go and pray about it, and he ended up saying, yes, I'll take your horse to the Breeders' Cup. So she was going. But now, she arrives in Elmont, New York, at Belmont Park for the Breeders' Cup 2 days before the race. She flies in. It's 30 degrees colder there. She doesn't have her goats. Everything is off. She now has a trainer who is going to feed her, but didn't know what the other trainer. She could have colicked and died just from the circumstances, because those horses are like on the muscle all the time. So she gets there. Meanwhile, I had to call and make all the changes. We're no longer going with that trainer. We're no longer going to do all the things we were going to do. And now that I knew, there's a TV show called TVG for racehorses in the morning. Every morning we'd get up and watch it, and it was so exciting because she was the poster girl. And they're kind of in the dark, and they're like, I think it's Unbridled Elaine, she's coming down, and they're timing them. Oh, that was a good work. She went this fast. And so every morning was so thrilling and amazing to watch her. Well, now she's gone. Because with that move and changing barns and all the drama that took, my dad became the laughing stock of the Thoroughbred Association. And they would say things like, what was he thinking? He used to have the fastest horse in the country. Well, sure hope he made a good decision. And they started calling him the tempestuous old man. But he didn't care at all, because he had one goal and one focus, and he wanted to keep that mare safe until that day. And when we get there, it's like Mardi Gras. There's ticker tape, there's reporters everywhere. Only when you get out, they don't ask you anything about you at all. They want to know how the horse is doing. Wow, what a thing to figure out what to say under the circumstances. And you're like, she's a really good mare. We just are hoping that she'll have her best race ever. It's like giving them a little, I didn't want to get in the way of God's miracle by saying anything. So I don't think we ate. And it came time, our car was going to pick us up, and so we prayed. And I think I prayed about the same thing I said to everyone. I said, Father, thank you for bringing us here. This is a miracle. It's a miracle already. Thank you so much. I pray that you keep Elaine safe, and that she can have the best race she's ever had. But mostly, God, I thank you for finishing the work that you've begun in my father. And I thank you that exactly what you want will come to pass today. And I have to tell you, I didn't have the biggest amount of faith. That was the best faith prayer I could, because it was impossible now. Her odds dropped. She was a 1-on-1 favorite. Now, at the time I looked, she was 1-12. So we start the day, and we get out there, back into the wildness of this event, and here's the limousine waiting to pick us up, and by now we know our driver, and pulls up and we get in, and instead of taking off right away, which would be normal, he puts his arm on the seat, and he looks back, which is not even a limo guy kind of thing to do, and he goes, guess what, we're betting on your horse today. And I'm like, He said, actually, my entire family is. We went and took all of our money out of the savings, and we're going to put it on the Elaine on the nose. It means to win. And I'm like, and you know, he was a limo driver, and I'm like, oh. I said, well, you know, there's a lot of good horses. Maybe you should spread it around. And he said, absolutely not. He said, God told us to do it. And I'm like, I think I probably was silenced, which would be unusual. So we drive to Belmont, and it was amazing. It was full of flowers and statues and string quartets, but there was also something that I haven't mentioned yet. It was 2001, and it was October. And this was the first international event America had after the Twin Towers were attacked. And so, along with the beauty and the opulence, there were black ops helicopters everywhere over the top of it. And they had the doors open and they had the machine guns at ready, and it was the most ominous thing. And America's moving forward, and from our seats, you could still see the smoking of the Twin Towers. They hadn't imploded yet. And so there was such a dichotomy. We're here, but. We're going forward, but. And so it was really something else. So when you walk in the front and you're an owner, they have someone assigned to you to take you to your seat at the top, and then if you win, they'll take you to the winner's circle. So our particular person was Pat Day's daughter, and Pat Day at the time was the second leading jockey in the world. So having his daughter was just kind of cool, and Pat had ridden her before several times, and so we get there, and it was a bit before the race. Now her odds are down to like 1 to 15. And we're going to look at some of the stuff to buy memorabilia for my dad's, because we actually got to be there. And we come back to the table, and the day started off with a tribute to the first responders. So the jockeys all gave gifts to the first responders and had this beautiful, amazing ceremony. And so it was like Breeders' Cup, Twin Towers. She's here. It's impossible. And you're just like, but we're here. So we get up there, that's going on. And just before the race, I was like, you know what? I need to go bet, because what kind of faith would this actually be if I didn't cooperate with him? So I went and I emptied out everything I had. And I thought, well, we still have a plane ticket home. We'll be good. So we do that and get back, and eventually the trumpet sounds. And the first trumpet is that the owners go down into the paddock, which is actually my favorite place to be, because in the paddock, all of them could possibly win, including her. And you see these horses that, if you love race horses, it's just like scrumptious. They're so gorgeous and so ready and shiny and on their toes. And who's who is down there? And us, with a horse that probably doesn't have a chance in the entire world. It's windy and cold, and there are black ops helicopters over. It's so loud, you had to literally yell in each other's ears to hear because of it. So everyone else is yelling too, because it was so loud. It was just a roar of a sound. So we get to the paddock, and they had to saddle one of the horses outside because she couldn't handle all that noise and tension and all the changes. And she was actually the favorite horse. Her name was Exogenous. And so they had to take her out to get her saddled. Eventually, they call the race. And so the horses go over. They have a tunnel that you can't actually see through. It kind of goes like this. So the horses go in first, and then the owners come behind. And halfway through that tunnel, there's a doorway and a stairway to the top. So they call the horses, they go through the tunnel, we're beginning to follow, and someone yells, "Gray horse down." We had the gray horse. And we're in the tunnel now with half the horses are in front of us and half of them are at that side of it. So we're in the tunnel with these horses whose brains are already at the starting gates. Somebody laid themselves against us so we wouldn't get hurt. And it seemed like forever. It probably was only a couple minutes, maybe. And someone yelled back, "Elaine, it's not your horse." So, you know, of course, there's a huge sigh, but it's somebody's horse. And so now the race proceedings stop. And the owners eventually go up to the top. Some of the horses are out on the track because they were already out there ahead of that horse, and some were behind, and they have to go back into the paddock. So now everything has changed. So Elaine was one of the horses that had to go back to the paddock. And so there were probably half a dozen there at least. I don't remember how many, but they're now just jockeys get off the ones on the track and the ones in there, and they're leading the horses just to keep them moving, but to, you know, not use up too much of their energy. And now some of the horses are starting to run their race ahead of time, that's what we call it. It's when they begin to lather up because their brains are already in the race. So some of the horses are starting to do that. But Elaine is on her toes, but she's very calm. She's not doing anything but her usual thing. And so eventually, after we went back to the top, probably a half an hour of getting us, what had happened is Exogenous, that mare who was having such a hard time, when they led her up into the track, everyone's guessing that all that noise and all those helicopters and all that stress was just too much for her. And she reared up and fell, and she fell and hit her head full bore on the ground. And when she did that, she got her legs twisted in the metal rails of the fencing on the way in. So by the time we got to the top, you could look down and see that the jockeys were laying it on her head, and, you know, several people, and they're trying to unwind her legs, and you're like, oh my God. I mean, the people are silent across the whole track. It's quiet except for the helicopters. And eventually, they get her into a paddy wagon to take her to get help. But you could tell pretty much by looking at her, it was not going to be good because she was acting very brain damaged, you could tell. So it just, so once she was off the track safely, they start talking, of course, during this whole time because it's live TV, and so they're having to fill the time. And one more time, they had to call him the tempestuous old man. And I'm thinking, can't they just give him a break? At least we got here. But they don't know the story, so they bring them all out, and this time they don't pony them back and forth because they've already been walking for 20, 30 minutes. So they take them to the track and then on to the
He's back
starting
in the paddock
gates.
with trainer Dallas Stewart, as the feeling down there must be one of extreme deflation. Kenny?
Yes, Tom, it certainly is a disappointing way to get this Breeders' Cup started. I know, Dallas, you wish that the race was going on and Exogenous was out there running, but the situation you have now with Unbridled Elaine is you have to make sure your filly's ready. So as she walks around here, anything particular you're looking for?
Well, we just want to keep her calm and quiet, and looks like she's behaving herself, and we're just relaxing, waiting on the call. So whenever they say riders up, we'll be ready to go.
And I think they're getting ready to call that now, maybe.
And ready for the start of the Breeders' Cup at Belmont. And they're off. And it is Spain, and she breaks alertly for the early lead. Pompeii is flashing early speed today. And coming up from the inside, here comes Tranquility Lake, and Queenie Belle is right there in and among them. Miss Linda comes away running in fifth, and Flute down on the inside, up close and on the pace, and she's sixth in the early going. A length and a half back to Star, who's seventh. And the long-legged Unbridled Elaine stretches out now in eighth position. To her outside, it's Atelier, 2-item limit, and Critical Eye are at the back of the pack. Up the back stretch through a quarter that was into the wind in 23 and 3. And it is Tranquility Lake in front. Eddie De La Houssaye has taken her well off the rail. She's out and about that three path with that lead. A narrow lead it is, as Queenie Belle is right there with her. Pompeii up close, right there on the pace, running along in third. And Flute is under a hard hold there by Jerry Bailey as the field moves into the far turn, just in behind the lead. Defending champion Spain making a move now. And there she goes at the half mile. couple. Now fourth on the outside. Miss Linda in between horses. And Flute has been shuffled back. She's now running in sixth. Atelier is launching a bid, a wide bid, and picking up horses one by one. Atelier is coming on strongly. And then it's Star, 2 Item Limit, Unbridled Elaine. Critical Eye is the last of them all as the field turns for home. And it's Spain in front, but Flute has running room, and here she comes off the turn into the stretch. Spain, the defending champion, is there by 2. Atelier driving hard. 2 Item Limit coming on the outside. Flute, not today. Miss Linda, Star, Unbridled Elaine is coming with the late run, but it is Spain in front. Here comes Unbridled Elaine with giant strides. Here's the wall. Photo finish. Unbridled Elaine maybe. Pat Day thinks he got it. He raised that fist in the air. Photoing with Spain. It was very close indeed. It was close for third as well between Atelier and 2 Item Limit. And there she is. It appears as though she won by a very narrow margin. Unbridled Elaine and Pat Day coming from off the pace to get the money in the final strides.
At 12-1, Unbridled Elaine coming with a rush under Pat Day, who now becomes once again the all-time leading Breeders' Cup rider. He'd been tied with Jerry Bailey. That's his 12th Breeders' Cup win. Unbridled Elaine, named for one of the daughters of owner Roger Davenport, who's 82 years old. She had taken on the Colts, was second to Macho Uno in the Pennsylvania Derby before she finished 4th in Keeneland Spinster Stakes. Unbridled Elaine with a rush. Dallas Stewart, the trainer, as Kenny Rice spoke with Dallas Stewart, and Pat Day was standing by in the paddock, and he said, "We'll be ready to go." She was ready.
Well, the interesting story about Unbridled Elaine is that Dallas Stewart trained her originally. The owner got annoyed, shipped her over to David Vance, who ran her about 4 times. She ran well for him. Then they shipped her back just last week, just back to Dallas Stewart. She's been shuttling back and forth amongst these trainers, but she runs good for all of them.
And Donna Barton is there with Pat Day. Donna?
Pat, congratulations. First of all, now you're the leading Breeders' Cup rider, but last time you rode this filly, you won by 8 lengths. Today you win the Breeders' Cup distaff. Looks like she runs for you.
Well, we've had a lot of success together, obviously. A great filly. Dallas and David Vance have both done an awesome job with this filly.
They've taken turns.
Yeah, Dallas had trained her, and then David ran her in Iowa, and I rode her, and then just recently she went back to Dallas's barn, and so she's running off of David's training today. So they've both done an awesome job, and I just praise God for the privilege and pleasure of being here today. Give him all the glory. My hearts and prayers are with the great filly went down at the break. That's a terrible, terrible way to start the day. Just pray she's all right.
Pat, we all pray she's all right. Pat, congratulations. And Tom, looks like we got off to a good start, but things are getting...
For the day for him finished up the track, and it scrambles the 3-year-old filly championship as well. Let's go down to Trevor Denman now for an analysis of the distaff.
Thank you, Tom. Well, we'll pick them up here at the top of the lane momentarily, and you'll see Unbridled Elaine going to come on the extreme outside in the white colors. She is in pack right now, and you're going to see her have to shift out. Spain is just out of the picture, in fact, but Spain is going to kick clear. Obviously just a little unlucky with Spain because she had to make that move a little premature. There's Pat Day on the gray horse in the blue cap. Elaine, Unbridled Elaine now pulled to the outside. She's still got a lot of work to do from here, but you see Pat Day cracking her a few times there. She pins those ears, and right here she just explodes through. Look at her passing a horse with each and every stride. Spain is very, very tired on the front. She's breathing fire at this stage. She'd already done enough, and as you can see, Unbridled Elaine, perfectly timed ride from Pat Day up to tag her in that last bit. So a great ride, a little bit of luck involved there. Pat Day coming to the outside at just the right time. Unfortunately for Victor Espinosa, he had to make that move wide and a little early, and that was the difference between winning and losing. A great win, though, by Unbridled Elaine and Pat Day. Tom?
All right, Trevor, and the distaff, although over its history has been a formful race, the favorite now has not won since 1995 here at Belmont, when Inside Information got home first. Let's go to Mike Battaglia.
Thanks, Tom. With Dallas Stewart, who actually just got this horse back a week ago, Pat Day, who's now the leading rider in Breeders' Cup history, and Elaine Davenport, the lady that Unbridled Elaine was named after. To make the trophy presentation, a man who's been extremely busy for this past month, the director of the Mayor's Office of Emergency, Richard Shearer. Richard?
Well, I want to congratulate you on a great race in the great state of New York, and I want to thank all of America for what they've done for us in New York in these past 6 weeks, and congratulations on a wonderful win.
I
just have one thing to say. You did it, Dad! You did it, Dad!
Way to go, Elaine. And Dallas, tell us a little bit about the history of what happened. Now, you trained this horse early on, but we know that Dave Vance had her, and she got back to your barn a week ago.
Well, you know, this race is all about the horse. You know, those things just develop like that. David did a great job with her, and we were fortunate to get her back to train. And, you know, it's all about the horse. She's a great horse. She stepped up today. Pat gave her a great ride, and, you know, we're happy to have her, and it's a great day for us.
And Pat did give her a great ride. And, Pat, she came from far back off the pace. Do you think that's the way the track's playing today? Was that your guys' game plan to take her that far back? That's a little bit further back than she's ever been, isn't it?
Well, she was in the middle of the field, and actually she was moving well at the head of the stretch. A horse on the inside altered course and came out in front of us, pushed me over the 8 horses' heels.
Here we go.
And right there, and I had to alter course to the outside. And then I was at the 8th pole before I had a chance to really put her to the task, and she just responded beautifully, dropped down, went after the leader with a vengeance, and got the job done. We just, you know, she's a great filly, well-trained, well-prepared, and just a privilege and a pleasure to be here, and certainly to get this victory. I just praise God for the privilege to be here.
Well, being a daughter of Unbridled Song, you know she's going to run well, and you know she's going to handle the distance.
Well, she is, and she's big, and she's strong, and she's athletic, and that's what you look for.
Congratulations, guys. Tom?
All right, Mike, as we take a look at our Tyco official order of finish.
Other information about that race. So we're up there. Everyone is screaming. My daughter and I are quiet. Because, you know, she started off really close to the back. And if you watch the race again, she goes over this way a little bit, and then she goes a little bit over that way, and a little bit drops back to second last, and then back about. And we're like, does she even know she's in a race? She looked like she was out for a breeze. You know, that's what they call it when they're just exercising. And we're saying things like, well, my daughter said, at least Grandpa got to be here, you know? And we're like, and we're sitting there watching, and the other people are screaming, and we're quiet, our 2 people. And we're quiet, and she's running, sort of. She's not even down. They drop down when they're running. She's kind of, and we're like, wow. Until, if you watch it again at the quarter pole, which is the last straightaway, they always ask the horse to change leads, so they have a fresh muscle to run with. And remember how soft she was in the hands of a rider always? He gave her a cue to change leads, and she just lunged ahead, and you saw, I don't know if you could see it, but she ran right into the back of another horse and fell off her feet to the side. Her head goes up, and we're like, oh! But all it did was make her mad. She dropped down like a cat, and she had to run 3 lengths to the side while the fastest horses in the world are going straight ahead. She gets over into her own running lane, and she walked past those horses like they were jogging. And did you see how easy it was? She was just same as she'd always been. She just headed for the only place that she even had in her mind to be, and that was in front. When she crossed that finish line that day, with all that stuff that happened, she's being ridden by a born-again, spirit-filled jockey. Dallas Stewart is born-again, spirit-filled guy. Dallas won his first Breeders' Cup ever, which put him in a whole new class. Pat Day, the jockey, became the leading money earner in the world jockey that day. She came across all of her connections were serving Jesus. That bought a place in history, but what it really bought was a platform to tell people about Jesus. So, yeah, it's amazing. So this young lady, Pat Day's daughter, comes to our table, which I didn't really think we'd ever see her again. She came to get us and took us down to the winner's circle. And we go, and all I could think of is I don't want to say a thing. I just want my dad to know how proud I am of him. And so we get up there to do it, and they gave me the trophy. And that day, my dad won the Breeders' Cup, the 2001 Breeders' Cup Distaff. After that, they come get you, they take you to all the TV interviews. And on the way down, the impossibility of it was just ringing in me. I was numb. There's much I don't even remember. But on the way down there, I said to Dallas, what were you doing before my dad called you? You know, what was happening? What was your prayer? And he said, he got a smile on his face. He said, I was praying that God would keep me humble. And you know what the word says? If you will humble yourself before men, I will lift you up. And it was like, of course you were. And I asked Pat Day, who's a very straight, quiet guy, and I said, Pat, how is it that you could be available to ride Elaine today? Because the best jockeys in the world are taken the moment they qualify. And then she switched and all that, and I wasn't sure. He said, well, you know what? I just asked Jesus at the beginning of the week, is there anything I can do for you, sir? And he said, ride Elaine? He said, yes, sir. So we're going into it, and I honestly can't even tell you what happened at any of those TV interviews. I don't remember anything because of the awe of God. It was so miraculous. And we were actually there, and it actually happened. So believe it or not, we get back to our table. Well, we get back to our table, and the people that were sitting next to us, they're like, wow, Elaine, you were really loud. And I'm like, well, I'm a lot quieter if I don't win. And they're like, so the lightness and the reality of what was beginning to hit me, and we got to our table and sat down, and all of a sudden the phone rang. It was my dad. And we're on top of the world, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I think I'm hanging off the rafters because I'm so amazed, excited. And he goes, yeah, I bet you are. And he said, oh, I saw you on TV. He said, you were pretty excited. I said, yeah, Dad, I was so excited for you. And all of a sudden, the anointing, the presence of God just came down, and everything got quiet to me. And I remembered the words of Salty Roberts. And I said, so Dad, what do you think the chances are of a guy like you? And he knew what that meant in every way. A guy like you having the fastest mare in the world today. And there was a silence I'll never forget. And then with a voice that's just cracking with love, he said, I guess God loves me. The 2001 Breeders' Cup Distaff was a salvation message for my family. It was so much more than a race. I'm positive that the angels from heaven made that horse able to get there. It was a miracle from beginning to end. There was nothing that we did except my dad just kept showing up and taking one more step when everyone said he couldn't. He put up with family fighting and trying to shame him and condemn him for putting this big money-using situation out there. Why isn't he sitting home taking care of himself on the couch, which my dad would have never done anyway? But he had drama everywhere around him. People made fun of him. He was in so much pain, he could hardly show up. But he did. He had the most laser focus I have ever seen in my life. So now I hear that he knows he's loved. Not quite sure all the other things. Believe it or not, I left the Breeders' Cup that day. I didn't need to see anything else. We didn't even watch the rest of the races. We got back in our limousine. Our driver was very happy. He was so excited. He said, I called the family and we're all rejoicing that Jesus led us to do this. My daughter and I are numb. He drives us back to the hotel. And the next day, I don't even remember what happened the rest of the day. Honest don't. I don't even remember going to bed that night. The next day they have a press conference where they have all the winners of the different races come up and they play on this big Jumbotron behind you, the race. And then there's reporters from all the different venues asking you questions. So now that this time is coming, I'm like, crumb, I'm not sure I even know what happened because I was really numb. So I had gone to the trainer and the jockey and tell me what happened. And so I went through all of that. And you get there, and we were the first race, so they call us up onto the stage, and there's probably 500 reporters out there, and the owners of the other horses, and someone raises their hand, a reporter from somewhere in the back, and he said, "Did your dad name that horse after you?" And I'm like, yes, that was an easy question to answer. And, yeah, he did. And someone on the other side raises their hand, and they said, "Well, did he ever name any other horses after you?" And I'm like, I literally felt myself blinking, and I'm like, yes, Rocket Elaine. She was the Triple Crown winner of quarter horses years before. And he said, and the other guy goes, "Well, was there any others?" And right about now, something's starting to happen to me. And I said, yeah. His top 4 with leading money-earning horses were all Elaine. Elaine's Reasons, Rocket Elaine, Rocket Elaine, and Unbridled Elaine. And I am being hit with the impossibility of that. Because what also was a reality to me is that I never felt like I was loved the way my brothers were. He kind of set me off to the side. Our only place that we were real close was with the horses. I always said my dad and I had a 6th love language. It was horse. It's a place we were safe, and we understood each other, and it was our passion, and we just were one in that place. And so while I'm standing there and they're asking those questions, God just touched me and showed me how my father had loved me in the only way he knew how. And that God had, from the beginning, touched that situation because it was impossible. But now, in the place I stand today and that day, I understood the miraculous message of what he had built. And I knew it was so not about me. But that day, I received such a deep healing, and my identity went from unloved daughter to a loved daughter. And that was enough that I can't remember the rest of the interview. We get down and we sit down at the table. My daughter leans over, she says, "Mom, you didn't say very much after they talked about Elaine." And I'm like, I don't even know how I answered her. I only remember she asked me that. She said that, and I'm like, I was so deeply changed in one moment from that. So we're done with that, and we fly home with the trophy. And we get back, and I have a son also, and I was married, so I got them all settled, and I took that, and I'm heading to Lexington. I can't wait. He's gone through all of that and so much more to get that when everyone thought it was impossible. So I get that, jump in my Suburban, head down there, anticipation. I mean, I'm smiling from cell to hair. Like, ah. I get in there, and he's in his chair, and I bring it in. That thing is heavy. You're welcome to. It's like, I don't know, 20 pounds? 15? It's heavy. So anyway, I take it in there, and I set it down on the arm of his chair, and he goes, "Put it over there." And I'm like, okay. I was like, what in the world? I thought he did everything for that. He said, "Come here. I want to tell you something." And I'm like, ooh. So I sit down next to him. And he said, "Elaine, I've made a decision." And he said, "I've decided to bet on Jesus." He said, "It's like this. I'm going to bet on Jesus. I'm going to feel peaceful. I'm going to be happy. I'll be able to sleep at night. And if I'm wrong, so what? It will have been good from here to there." My dad was very logical, like a lot of men. He said, "And if I bet against Jesus, from now until I die, I'm going to be stressed out. I'm going to be worried that I made the worst bet of my life. And if I'm wrong, please excuse this, but I want you to, there's a reason I'm going to say what I'm going to say." He said, "And if I'm wrong, I'm shit out of luck for eternity." And what I realized that day is how little he cares about our performance and how we've cleaned up and gotten churchy. He turned the universe around that day to let that one horse win a race Not because of the race. It's because it was a language my father could understand. He knew it was impossible. He knew he couldn't do it on his own. And when it happened, it spoke a language of, I love you, Roger. And so that day, in that room, in his recliner, he knew he was loved. It changed everything forever. And I'm going to share something with you that I don't share with everyone. So now you had the picture that I drew for you, and you saw how I walked my father to heaven. I got to be with him all the way to the end. Got to answer lots of questions late at night when he was I'm just going to show them one of them. I loved this question so much. We're sitting in the living room, and he's fading, and he said, I got a question. And I'm like, yeah? He said, why would God let a man who loves him so much go through all of this? And I said, you know what, God? I said, you know what, Dad? You went to the altar so many times and you couldn't accept him. You spent your life building a big business to care for your family. You did so much to do so much for all of us, but you never made place for him. And he loved you so much that he would allow this pressure to come so you would know that you're loved. He wants you with him for eternity, that's why. And he just started to cry, and he said, you're right, I didn't make a place for him. And he understood. And one more night, we were sitting there, and he was a character. He was in so much pain. I said, you know, Dad, you don't have to stay around for us. We're good. You've given us everything. You've imparted all you have to. We're never going to forget you. Every lesson you taught us, we carry. It's okay. You can go. And so he said, go get your mom. So he said goodbye to my mom and called my brother, was back in Wisconsin, said goodbye. And so by now he's in a bed in the house because he wants to go to heaven at home. And so he gives me instructions. He said, get some water bottles because I don't want to choke to death. And he's telling me how it's going to go. He said, just sit here quietly, don't touch me. If you knew my dad, he's used to running the world, so he's going to tell me how this is going to go. And it was serious because he really wasn't doing well. And so that night, he started coughing, and I dropped one of the bottles of water, and I'm crawling around the ground, and I could just feel him going, what the blanket, what are you doing? I told you not to let this happen. So I find the water, give it to him, whatever. That night, he doesn't die. Which was hilarious to me, actually, because he thought he could control this. So one of my sisters stopped in, and he pretended to be asleep all the time because he didn't have this great of a relationship with her, and that's a whole nother story that was exacerbated through this process. So he's pretending to be asleep, and all of a sudden he opens his eye, and I'm like, is she gone? I'm like, yes. And then he pushes himself up the best he can. He goes, what in the hell was that last night? And I'm like, well, Dad, I think God knows best, don't you? I said, I think he's going to take you at the right time. He said, you could see him recognize, yeah, I can trust that now. So, not too much later, he went into a coma. Well, actually, before he went into a coma, he stopped me one day. He said, I got to tell you something. He said, you do know that I didn't need one more trophy. I did not need one more win. He said, I did this so that when they tell you that you're going to die or that you're not going to make it or that you'll fail, you will know how to win. You will know how to live. He said, I didn't do this for that. I did this for you. And when he said you, he meant all of his kids. that happened, I got to experience and watch it all and cheer him on and fall in love with God all over again. Then about 8 years ago, I personally had a fall in my life. Because of some things that happened to me in my past, I had a pretty addictive behavior. So whether it was eating too much, I had an eating disorder, or one too many drinks before, or workaholism, performance, that was my biggest addiction. Looking good on the outside. But I had received a lot of healing. I'd already been in ministry. I've already been doing a lot of work. But I was somewhere, which I'm going to leave off. I was somewhere, and I got extremely triggered. A trauma response that I didn't even understand. I now know, but I didn't know at the time. And I fell directly back into bulimia, like instantaneously. And I hurt the people around me. It was heartbreaking. I was so crushed because I really thought I was free. But I just realized later on that it was just I was doing really great at eating organic and exercising, and I was still addicted to something, and I didn't know it. So that happened, and I was like, oh my, I'm done. I am just done. I drove out to the beach, and I sat there and cried, and I knew I had to go back and face the music. So I eventually got back in my car, and I'm starting to drive back to the crime scene, and I heard God say, Elaine, I'm going to change your name. And I'm not really feeling anything. I'm pretty numb. Because I just was disgusted by myself. And I'm listening. And he said, I'm going to call you free. And I was kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. Because you call things that aren't as though they were. And that's about what my response was. That began a journey into something that I had no idea was about to come. I went home, confessed everything I'd done in the situation to my mentors. And all three mentors, interestingly, said, you know, there's a conference coming up in our church next week. Maybe you should go. And I was like, I'll do anything, because I had determined I'm out of ministry, I'm out of leadership, I'm out of any kind of place where anyone wants to know anything I have to say about anything, because I'm sick and tired of being a hypocrite. And until I figure out what's wrong with me, I can preach you a healing sermon. And it didn't work. Until I figured that out, I'm not doing anything else. I was so done. So these three ladies tell me about this thing, and I'm like, I'll do anything you tell me. I'm going. And it wasn't 2 or 3 sentences into this conference this women's healing conference that I was in, that this speaker, Diane Storrs, said a line that reverberated in my soul. She said she had been a victim of childhood ritual abuse at the hand of the Masons. My spirit was like, and I knew immediately that this was a key. Like, there was something big here. Because my dad was a 33rd degree Mason. He was asked to be the head guy in Wisconsin, and he turned it down because he was too busy working. When we'd travel around the world, he'd always find a Masonic meeting to go to, and it was always about business. We do this for business, you know. We had Masonic parties, Masonic polo games. It was normal. My mom was the head of the Eastern Star. I'd gone to Job's Daughters one year, and it was so boring I quit. But it was our family. It was our way of life, our friends. They were very nice. Business owners in town, real nice people. So when she said that, I had a place I already knew. I already knew it was evil. I had already prayed the prayers, you know, a couple times actually. All of them, breaking curses, doing this and that. And so, when she said that, I knew I was about to start a journey I hadn't taken yet. And so I made an appointment, signed up for their classes. Meanwhile, I went to some Emmanuel prayer, which because I trusted the person who was taking me through the process, because she'd been there and she was free, and she's running a major trauma recovery ministry around the world, I felt safe. Because being a minister myself and being around, knowing God that long, I wouldn't let just anyone talk to me. Because about 6 years before that, I became very aware that I had a memory block from an age of about 6 to about 12. And I knew I had that. I also knew that I was not going to let just anyone tell me what they thought it was. So I had put it on the shelf. And my heart was, God, I'm not even going to go there unless you take me there. Because it was always too, I thought, I knew enough to know it wasn't good. You don't have a memory block for something good. And so I thought, I just don't, I'm not going to touch it unless I have Jesus leading me. And so this beautiful woman comes to our church, and she's now one of my best friends, led me into a situation or prayer time, where I actually saw the things. I understood what was happening during those years. For a minute, which was more like 2 weeks, I was raging angry. I experienced body pain that I'd never, from what had actually happened. I had a thorough revelation of what had happened and a thorough, actual deliverance from the pain and from everything that was stolen. And what ended up happening is that I started to realize that God allowed me to wait until after my father was born again and going to meet me in heaven one day. We had time to say, he said to me several times how sorry he was that he hadn't done things different. And at the time, I didn't know what he meant. I just thought our usual high school, college squabbles, disagreements, whatever. I had no idea what he was saying. He said, I wish so much I could do it over again. I'm so sorry that I've hurt you. And we had complete peace before I found out the rest. And that was the sweetness and the goodness of God. Because I can actually tell you, I love my dad so much. And only Jesus can do that. Only Jesus. So now I understand the immeasurable, unfathomable love of God. And that's why for the rest of my life, I will do what I do. Because there's so many things that happen to all of us and people. Everyone has a pain, a hurt. And everyone has access to the healer. It's not a metaphor. It was so black and white for me. He saved my life. He changed my story. That's what I was mad about at the beginning, because I had this other story that I told everywhere. And then comes that, understanding what happened to me. And for about 2 weeks, I was so mad I felt like I was going to explode. How dare you steal my story? And I was a little mad I was real mad at God. What up with this? And then he reminded me what my dad said just before he died. He said, Elaine, don't you know? This is not about a race. It's about so when things are impossible, you'll know what to do. And on the same day, later that day, as I was thinking about it, God said, don't you know this isn't just for you? I did this so that everywhere you go, you will tell people how much I love them. And that no matter what they've done, I've already forgiven them, and I've already made a way for them to come to know me. So the 2001 Breeders' Cup Distaff was not only salvation for my father, it ended up being deliverance for me, for my children, and for the generations to come. They will no longer be affected by the demonic curse that was on our life. My kids are free, and you guys can walk in the same exact freedom, and I know you are already. So when you come up against anything, you remember this impossible story. And all I did was basically nothing but make a place. I just stayed in step with him the best I knew how. And some of it, I wasn't even very faithful, but he was. Today, are you walking fully in your inheritance, eternal life, living your dream, full of peace and joy, content, passionate about life? Or is your life full of pain and defeat and hopelessness? And do you report much more about what's wrong because you can't see past it? Do you have a dream? Have they died? Have you settled just making the best of it? Are you still limping in the place where Jesus said he came to set you free? Have you lost that hope? Have you given up? Have you stopped expecting the fullness of his word in your life? Are you convinced without a doubt that God's plans for you are good? Do you believe that the end of your life will be better than the beginning? Do you believe that God could use you in any way he wants to, no matter who you are? If you can't say that you have a victory or a finish line in front of you where you see yourself, if you haven't got hope, if you've lost vision, if you have mountains in front of you that you cannot possibly see around, if you're stressed out before you even get to your running lane, or if you want to take God into your race and awaken your dreams, if you want to be able to see life's challenges as opportunities to show God's glory, if you want to learn about the power of patience so you can endure to win, remember this. To bring it home, to walk out our visions, to attain a platform, a release of God's glory, to have signs and wonders follow us so that they are going to know that he's God, it's going to cost you everything. You've got to lay down your life. You've got to give it up. You've got to release it. You simply have to become a good follower. You have to make a place in your life. You have to loosen the reins and expect someone to take over for you. By each of us walking in the fullness of our calling, the church in its fullness will be revealed to a dying world. The key to that happening is each of us getting into the running lane with Jesus. And when the obstacle comes, just like Unbridled Elaine does, instead of falling and quitting or dropping back, get mad at the devil and drop down, get into your lane. Don't follow anyone else. Get in your lane and follow the direction of your God to the finish line. He's already created the place. He's already created the place. And the only place in the Word of God is in front. Do you know that Christianity is the only race that everybody can win? That's the place He's set for us. But you have to see it, and then you have to act upon it. One last thing. My dad told me, you know, before someone dies, they're going to tell you the most important thing that they can. And he told me this at least 3 times. And he said, Elaine, when you find something that is your passion, when it's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, the thing you can't forget, the thing that drives you through hard times, he said, I want you to roll the dice and roll it hard. I want you to give it everything you've got. He said, I want you to spend yourself on behalf of it. I don't want you to save anything. He said, use your money, use your talents, use it all, but don't quit. If you will run and not quit, you will win. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. Don't look back. Don't consider what's going on. Keep running. Get into your own lane and don't stop. And if you'll do that, you'll win and you'll have a good life. I want you to have a good life. The last doctor appointment we ever went to was, he was taking radiation at the end, was the last thing he did. And he'd go down these elevators to the bottom of the hospital, and it's all gray, and it's really sad. And there's all these rooms with people hooked up to stuff. And he was in a wheelchair by now, and he pulls out this harmonica. And the doors to the elevator open, and he starts playing the Yellow Rose of Texas and in the halls of Montezuma, because he was a Marine, and he's playing, and the doors to these rooms start opening, and people are tapping their toes, and they're smiling, and they're giving him the high five, and a nurse comes up and twirls him around in his chair, and a doctor comes out and is like, Roger, that's the best thing we've ever heard down here, and they're kind of chuckling, and everybody's smiling. And so we're down now to the end of the hallway and to the waiting room. And by this time, he had spent all of his energy, and he was practically falling out of the chair. I had to get to somebody to help him sit back up. And I'm just like, Dad, that's my dad. That's a dad I knew. And we sit there, and when he caught his breath, he looked at me and he said, Elaine, and I'm giving this to you. You can always choose to be happy. I want you to choose to be happy. I want you to choose joy. And do you know what joy is? A safe bonded relationship with the King, the Savior, the Healer, the Master, the Lord, our soon coming Messiah. He's the one that can ensure our joy from here until we get to see him, and then forever. Choose joy. Thank you, Father, that your love supersedes theology and religion. If you would have asked me, Jesus, if that was possible after he denied you and he swore an oath to Satan through the Masonic, I would think that's impossible. I would have thought that was the unpardonable sin, but your love is so much bigger than our understanding. Your love is so much bigger than our understanding. Your love is so much bigger than our understanding. But you are the way, you are the truth, and you are our life. Father, seal whatever part of this story you want to in all of our hearts. Help us to switch into a running lane. Help us to be uncompromising, focused horse race runners. Because there's a finish line and the time's coming close, and this is how we're going to get there. This is how we get from here to the end. We follow you. In Jesus' name I pray.